My name is Sarah Mitchell. I'm 31 years old. And for 23 years, my own family called me the difficult one. Not the wild one, not the rebellious one, just difficult. As if wanting to be treated fairly was some kind of unreasonable demand they didn't have the patience for. My brother Thomas collected achievements like trophies, a finance degree from the University of Chicago, an MBA from Wharton, an express path into our father's firm before graduation. Dad himself walked him into the corner office, handing him a future on a silver platter. Me? I got a desk tucked near the supply closet with a job title nobody could explain. The Mitchells weren't old money. We were immigrant money, raw, complicated, earned from grit. My grandfather George came to Chicago from Manchester in 1971 with $40, a civil engineering degree, and a stubbornness the likes of which I've never known. He spent years learning the rules of American capital, where it flowed and where it faltered. Then, in 1983, he started Mitchell Capital Group, turning around struggling Midwestern businesses. By the time I was born, the firm managed $200 million. By 2024, it was worth over $800 million. Grandpa built every dollar of it. Dad spent 20 years convincing everyone, especially himself, that he had. I was diagnosed with ADHD and a processing disorder when I was 9. The school psychologist told my parents my brain simply worked differently. With the right support, I could thrive. Mom nodded politely in the office, then told Dad on the drive home it was probably just a passing phase. Dad agreed. Thomas was already winning math contests at 12. Why waste time on a phase? So I didn't get tutoring or help. What I got instead was size at the dinner table and comparisons I could never win. But I got something else too, my grandmother. Grandma Eleanor, Mom's mother, was a retired civil engineer who had built bridges in Scotland before moving to the U.S. She was 72 when I was 9, lived 40 minutes away in a modest bungalow in Evanston, and refused to leave for anything bigger or fancier. Every Saturday, I took the train to her house. She always had tea ready and endless patience. One afternoon, she spread faded blueprints across her kitchen table and asked me, "Sarah, how do you think about problems? Walk me through it." So I did. I talked about how my mind worked, how I visualized systems, connected dots, saw the shape of a problem before naming its pieces. She didn't interrupt. She didn't correct me. She just listened. Then she said, "You think like an engineer. Your brain builds models. Most people read instructions. You design them." For the first time, I felt like how I thought wasn't broken. It was a tool to sharpen. She handed me a small copper tin, old and worn smooth at the edges. "Keep this safe," she told me. "Don't open it yet. When things get very dark, and they will, you'll know when it's time." I took the tin home, tucked it in the back of my closet, and spent the next 2 decades learning exactly what she meant. Christmas 2017. 14 relatives gathered in my parents' Lakeshore Drive penthouse. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Lake Michigan. Catered food. A jazz quartet playing softly. The annual Mitchell family performance of excellence. Dad stood at the head of the table, champagne glass raised, wearing that boardroom confidence like a second skin. "I want to make an announcement," he said. The room quieted. Thomas has been selected as the youngest managing director in Mitchell Capital's history. effective January 1st. Applause erupted before he finished. Uncle Henry clapped Thomas on the back. Aunt Margaret wiped her eyes. Even the catering staff looked over and smiled. Then Dad's gaze drifted to me, just past the centerpiece and candlesticks, and landed cold. "And Sarah," he said, with warmth drained from his voice, "is also doing well in her administrative role." A few relatives laughed, soft, awkward, polite laughs, the kind people make when they don't know what else to do. Thomas didn't defend me. He smiled along with them. I stared at my plate. The roasted lamb blurred through tears I refused to shed. Under the table, a hand found mine. Thin fingers, warm, papery skin. Grandma Eleanor, 2 chairs down, squeezing gently. When I looked up, her eyes held something fierce, something like a fury aimed at the people who were supposed to love me. She said nothing, not then. But 3 months later, she called me to Evanston, saying she needed to show me something important. I didn't know it at the time, but that Christmas, that moment of quiet humiliation in front of 14 witnesses, had lit a fuse. Something that would take 6 years to detonate. After finishing my MBA at the University of Illinois in 2020, not Wharton, never Wharton, I applied to work at Mitchell Capital Group. I wanted to prove I belonged. Dad agreed to bring me on as an administrative coordinator. Salary $52,000 a year. The same month, Thomas received his first performance bonus, $340,000. My job was scheduling conference rooms, preparing presentation decks for analysts who never knew my name, drafting correspondence others signed. I wasn't invited to a single client meeting, shown a single term sheet, or included in any strategy sessions. But I watched, I listened, and during those long, invisible hours, I noticed something about myself. I could see things others missed. When partners discussed deals in hallways, I sketched diagrams of capital structures, the relationships, the pressure points, the risks nobody had named yet. Grandma Eleanor had taught me this. On Saturdays in her kitchen, she spread old contracts and project documents from her engineering days, showing me how to read them, not line by line, but as systems, where the weight was held, where it could fail. "Your father looks at deals like a salesman," she said one afternoon in early 2019, her health already beginning to fade. "He sees what he can take. You read like an architect. You look at what holds everything up." That afternoon, she pressed the copper tin into my hands again. "Now you keep it at home," she said. "The time is coming." March 2019, her Evanston bungalow. She was 81, thinner, softer silver hair, but eyes as sharp as ever. "Sit down, Sarah," she said. I sat in the same chair I'd sat in since I was 9, blueprints framed on the walls, tea steeping on the counter, the house smelling of bergamot, old paper, and certainty. "I built my career from nothing," she said, "in a country that didn't always want me, in a field that didn't always make space for women. I did it by seeing what others walked past." She looked at me steadily. "That is what you do. Your family has spent 20 years calling it a problem. It's not a problem. It's the whole point of you." She reached across and took my hands. "I have arranged some things," she said carefully. "Things that might help someday, but not today. Today, you're not ready. And there are people in your life who haven't yet shown you how far they'll go." I wanted to ask what she meant, But she changed the subject, talked about the weather, a documentary, her spring garden. 14 months later, she was gone. Pancreatic cancer, fast and merciless. I held her hand in the hospice, the only family member there. The copper tin sat unopened on my shelf. April 2024. An email arrived on a Wednesday afternoon. Subject: Organizational Restructuring, Confidential. Dear Ms. Mitchell, your current position will be eliminated effective August 1st, 2024. Please contact HR about your transition and severance. I read it 4 times, each time searching for a different meaning. Each time it came back the same. They were letting me go. That evening I stayed late, pretending to sort files no one would ever read. Through the thin wall between my desk and Dad's office, I heard voices. Dad and Thomas. She can't still be here for the announcement, Dad said. It looks strange. The managing director's sister, working as a coordinator. People ask questions. What questions? Thomas said. Why she's not in leadership, whether we passed her over. There's always a reason, Thomas. She's just not built for this world. Some people aren't. I pressed my palm flat against the wall. $52,000 a year. My apartment cost $1,800 a month. No savings, no safety net. If I lost this job, I had 2 months before financial ruin. But the money wasn't what squeezed my chest. It was the cold sinking into my bones. If I let them do this, I would spend my life as the family's quiet failure. Not because I failed, but because I was never given a real chance. Thomas's promotion gala was in 2 days. Something had to change. June 4th, 2024. The Langham Hotel, Chicago, Grand Ballroom. 420 guests. Partners, investors, politicians, journalists, relatives I barely knew. Crystal chandeliers, string quartet. Everyone here to celebrate power, legacy, and who belongs at the center. I stood near the entrance in a simple black dress I'd bought years ago. Designer everything glittered around me. Mom intercepted me before I could find my seat. Sarah, is that what you decided to wear? It's what I have. She adjusted her bracelet. You're at table 31, near the east wall. Try not to draw attention. She leaned close. I could smell her perfume. Tonight is Thomas's night. Whatever you feel, whatever you think you're owed, keep it to yourself. Don't embarrass us. She walked away before I could answer. Table 31 was half hidden behind a marble column. From where I sat, I could barely see the stage banner, Thomas Mitchell, Managing Director, Mitchell Capital Group, a new era of leadership. At 9:15, the music stopped. Dad took the stage. Tonight, he said, we celebrate not just achievement, but succession. A legacy passing from one generation to the next. The applause filled the room. Thomas Mitchell has shown the leadership, vision, and character this firm requires. Upon my retirement, Thomas will assume full control of Mitchell Capital Group. He will inherit my equity stake, the company's future, and the family legacy. Standing ovation. 420 people on their feet. Camera flashes. Thomas beside Dad, looking grateful, inevitable. And then, through the crowd, I noticed a man near the coat check, mid-60s, charcoal suit, silver hair cropped close. Expensive, but not flashy. He wasn't networking, he wasn't eating, he was just watching. Our eyes met. He didn't look away. Slowly, deliberately, like he had been waiting all evening for this moment. He walked toward table 31. He stopped beside me. Up close, I could see the precise, measured air of a man used to courtrooms and conference rooms. He pulled a business card from his breast pocket, cream-colored, embossed. "Miss Mitchell, I'm James Reeves, partner at Reeves and Thornton. I was your grandmother's personal lawyer for the last 11 years of her life. Grandma Eleanor." The words hit me like a punch. "She passed away 4 years ago," I said. "I know." He didn't soften. "She left something for you, with instructions on when to deliver it." From his jacket, he produced an envelope, cream stock, sealed with red wax. Notary stamp, September 3rd, 2019. "What is this?" I asked, though part of me already knew. "Her will, the complete, final will your father has never seen." His voice lowered. "She told me to give this to you the day your father publicly passed you over, in front of witnesses." He glanced toward the stage where Dad and Thomas posed for photographs. "I believe that's just happened." My hands trembled as I took the envelope. "Mr. Reeves, what's inside?" A flicker of warmth crossed his face. "Your grandmother said, give this to Sarah when her father shows her who he is. By then, she will be ready." He straightened his jacket. "I'm here when you have questions. You have my card." Then he disappeared back into the crowd as quietly as he had arrived. I slipped through a side door into a quiet hallway, fluorescent lights humming above, the celebration muffled behind me. My fingers shook as I broke the wax seal. Inside, legal papers, notarized from September 3rd, 2019. I read slowly, forcing each word to land, and then, near the end, my eyes fixed on a paragraph, and I stopped. "To my granddaughter Sarah Mitchell, I bequeath my full investment stake in Mitchell Capital Group, 38% of equity worth over $300 million, and all associated voting rights, $304 million, 38%, a blocking minority in a firm with 5 board members." I kept reading. "This bequest recognizes that Richard Mitchell has treated Sarah unfairly. She has been excluded not for lack of ability, but for failure of imagination and blindness by those who should have seen her clearly. Sarah is not difficult, she was unsupported. I will not allow her father's prejudice to define her inheritance." A sound caught in my throat, something between a sob and the breath I had been holding for 23 years. Grandma Eleanor saw it all, and then a condition. To activate this bequest, Sarah must request an emergency board meeting within 60 hours of receipt. Failure to act voids this will, reverting assets to the 2016 testament. 60 hours. The deadline, 9:15 p.m., June 6th. Grandma had given me a weapon. The question was whether I was brave enough to use it. That night, back in my Logan Square apartment, I opened the copper tin. The brass hinge creaked as I lifted the lid. Inside, a handwritten letter on personal stationery, a USB drive, and a single photograph. I picked up the letter. "My dearest Sarah, if you're reading this, James has done his job, and Richard has shown who he really is. I'm sorry I couldn't protect you while I lived, but I can protect you now." The USB contains records from a 2017 board meeting I attended and quietly recorded as a major equity holder. At that meeting, your father proposed reducing my voting stake from 38 to 8%, claiming concerns about my judgment. The truth was simpler. He wanted full control. I was the only one standing in his way. I never forgot what he tried. I never forgave how he spoke of you, as though dismissing you proved I'd lost my mind. Use this wisely, Sarah, not for revenge, for something better. All my love, Grandma Eleanor. I plugged the USB into my laptop. The file was labeled Board Meeting Recording, March 2017. I pressed play. Dad's voice filled the room. Eleanor is 80 years old, not active for a decade. Her judgment can't be trusted. I'm moving to reduce her equity rights for investor protection. I listened to the whole 23 minutes, then sat in the orange dark for a long time. The next morning, I made 2 calls. First, James Reeves. I'm requesting the board meeting, I said. I'll draft the petition. You'll need 2 independent board members to sign. He gave me 2 names, Patricia Wolfe and Robert Sato, both recently at odds with my father. Quiet until now. Patricia Wolfe answered on the 3rd ring, voice calm and precise. Miss Mitchell, I've been waiting to see this day. You know me? Your grandmother and I worked together for 11 years. She spoke about you often. She mentioned the will about a year before she died, said you'd need allies when the time came. Will you sign the petition? 3 seconds of silence. Your father isn't a bad man, but he believes this company is his creation. People like that make damaging decisions. Yes, I'll sign. Robert Sato signed 2 hours later. By 4 p.m., the emergency board meeting petition was filed. Meeting set June 6, 2024, 11 a.m. Mitchell Capital Headquarters. Thomas called me at 6:47 that evening, voice tight. What did you do? I was eating takeout. I'm not sure what you mean. Dad just got notice of an emergency board meeting. This is you. The board can call emergency sessions. It's in the charter. Sarah, don't. This will destroy the family. The family was already broken. I'm just the first to say it out loud. He hung up. I spent the night preparing. Printed will copies, backup drive with the recording. A written statement, precise, factual, unemotional. A full timeline from 2017 to now. I barely slept. But for the first time in years, I wasn't kept awake by dread. I was kept awake by clarity. June 6, 2024, 10:48 a.m. Mitchell Capital Headquarters, floor-to-ceiling glass, exposed steel beams, designed to make you feel small before you speak. I stepped off the elevator wearing a navy blazer borrowed from a friend, carrying my old leather portfolio. The receptionist looked up. Name? Sarah Mitchell. Miss Mitchell, you're not on the authorized list for this session. She's with me, Patricia Wolfe, standing in the boardroom doorway, late 50s, quiet authority. She has standing, let her in. The room was smaller than I imagined. Dark wood table, 8 leather chairs, framed photos on the walls, the firm's history in images. My grandfather breaking ground on his first acquisition, shaking hands with the governor, accepting awards. Not one photo of my father. I noticed, I think he notices every day. Harold Owen, board chair, 70s, a man who had known my grandfather, called the meeting to order. Patricia stood. The matter concerns a document materially affecting ownership and governance of this firm. I yield to Sarah Mitchell, who holds standing. All eyes turned to me. Dad leaned back with theatrical boredom. Thomas's look said, "Go ahead. We both know how this ends." I stood, hands steadier than I felt. What I present today will surprise you. Please hear the evidence before judging. Dad raised his hand. I need to provide context. He rose, smoothing his jacket. I love my daughter, but Sarah has struggled with cognitive challenges that make high-pressure business difficult. Not a criticism, medical reality. We have supported her, but today we see a young woman upset about family decisions and wasting the board's time. He sat. Thomas nodded. Some board members shifted uneasily. I looked at my father, then at Thomas. 23 years of being explained away like this. Being the story told, not the storyteller. I thought of Grandma Eleanor, the blueprints. How do you think about problems? The copper tin, the 60-hour deadline, the letter, her words in the hospice, 3 days before she died. You were always the one, Sarah. I just needed you to believe it too. Thank you for the context, I said calmly. I won't talk about my cognitive profile. I'll talk about this. I placed the will on the table. The room fell silent, the kind of silence where you feel something shift forever. Dad's face went pale. That's not possible, he said softly. My mother's will was executed in 2016. I have the documents. You have the previous will, I said. Illinois law says a later will supersedes prior testaments. This was executed September 3rd, 2019. I slid it to Harold Owen. James Reeves stood and confirmed its full authenticity. Harold studied the document. This bequeaths 38% equity to you, Miss Mitchell. Murmurs around the table. It's a forgery, Thomas said. It's not, James said firmly. My mother was elderly. She could have been confused. Mr. Reeves, I interrupted, was my grandmother legally competent when she signed this? Completely. She was deliberate and precise. No snap decisions. Then let me show you something else. I pulled out my phone and pressed play. Dad's voice filled the boardroom. Eleanor is 80 years old, not active for a decade. Her judgment can't be trusted. I'm moving to reduce her equity rights for investor protection. I stopped the recording. The silence was absolute. Dad's hands crashed flat on the table. Harold folded his hands. Patricia, Robert, you reviewed this? We have, Patricia said. You believe it valid? We do. The board must act. The general counsel looked up from his phone. External counsel and Illinois Secretary of State. Confirm the document appears facially valid. Formal probate is needed, but under Illinois law, a subsequent will supersedes all prior. Miss Mitchell's claim appears sound. This is not over, Dad said, his voice drained of authority. Please let the board do its work, Harold said firmly. Dad sat back, jaw set, eyes on me, holding a look I had never seen from him before. He knew, and I knew that he knew. Grandma Eleanor had given me a weapon, and I had used it, not for revenge, for something better, for the truth.